Welcome back, listeners. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today we're taking on a stealthy foe that can wreak havoc on those precious yields, especially for you potato and tomato growers out there.
Oh, I know this one.
We're talking about Alternaria blight, sometimes called early blight.
Yep, a real pain.
And we've got some great insights to share today, including a look at how Farmonaut there, an ag tech company, is using cutting-edge solutions to help you stay ahead of this threat.
Love what Farmonaut is doing.
So before we get into the solutions, let's make sure everyone's up to speed on just what we're dealing with here.
Definitely.
Give us the lowdown. What is Alternaria blight, and why should farmers be worried?
Well, it's a sneaky one, that's for sure. Alternaria, it's a fungus,
Yeah.
and it can chill in the soil literally for years.
Waiting for the right moment to strike.
Exactly. And when it does, well, let's just say it can really make or break your season.
Okay, so let's paint a picture for our listeners. They're out in the field scouting their tomatoes or potatoes. What does Alternaria blight look like? What are the telltale signs?
Keep an eye out for spots on the leaves. Dark spots, almost like targets, you know.
With rings like a bullseye.
Yep, you got it. Often there's this yellow halo around them, too.
And what about the fruits themselves? Any signs there?
Yeah, you might see sunken spots on the fruits. They get kind of leathery looking, not good. But honestly, the worst part is the defoliation.
The leaves actually start to die off.
They wither and die, yeah. Which, of course, weakens the whole plant, stunts its growth. It's just not getting the energy it needs.
And not a pretty sight. And definitely not good for those yields.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine losing half your crop to this blight. Devastating, especially for smaller farms.
Could be the difference between making a profit and, well, not.
Exactly. And it's not just the quantity either. The quality takes a hit too. Blighted fruits, not exactly what people are looking for at the market.
Makes sense.
But
And then you've got the added costs of trying to control it with fungicides.
right. Plus, this fungus is a survivor. It can hang out in the soil even after you've harvested, ready to come back for more next season.
So definitely a formidable foe, which is why understanding what triggers an outbreak is so important.
Yeah.
What conditions make those Alternaria spores say, all right, time to party?
Think warm and damp. Like picture a sauna, but for fungi.
Sounds cozy in a fungal kind of way.
Right. Temperatures between 68 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, high humidity above 90%. That's prime real estate for Alternaria.
And if those leaves stay wet for a while, after a rain or irrigation.
Even worse, if they're wet for 12 to 18 hours, the disease can really take hold.
So basically anything that stresses those plants out is going to make them more susceptible.
You got it. Drought, nutrient deficiencies, other diseases. It's like their defenses are down.
And what about planting density? Does that play a role?
Big time. Overcrowding. It's like inviting the fungus to a rave.
Pack house, everyone's sweating.
Exactly. All that humidity, it's like a fungal paradise. Creates the perfect microclimate for those spores to spread.
So clearly, prevention is key here, and that's where Farmonaut steps in, right? Using technology to give farmers that crucial early warning system. Tell me more about how they're doing that.
Farmonaut's approach is all about precision. They use satellite imagery analysis to detect subtle changes in crop health. And get this, sometimes even before you can see those symptoms with your own eyes.
Wait, they can spot blight from space?
It's kind of like having X-ray vision for your crops. They use multispectral imaging, which means they're capturing light beyond what we can see.
So they're seeing things that our eyes just can't pick up.
Exactly. Things like vegetation health indices, chlorophyll content, the leaf area index, all clues about how those plants are doing. And by comparing these images over time, they can see those tiny shifts that might signal a problem brewing.
That's wild. So basically they're providing this constant aerial surveillance of your fields.
Exactly. It's like having a 247 watchtower, but in space.
Yeah.
And that early detection, well, that's a game changer when it comes to disease management.
Because the earlier you catch it, the better your chances of stopping it.
Right. Like, think about it. If you're dealing with any kind of health issue, early detection is key. Same goes for your plants.
So Farmonaut is giving farmers that crucial head start. But what happens when the alarm bells go off? What tools do they provide to actually fight back against Alternaria?
Well, their system isn't just about the high-tech detection. It's about combining that data with on-the-ground strategies. They advocate for a multi-pronged defense.
So a holistic approach.
Exactly. Cultural practices, resistant varieties, targeted treatments, and it's all guided by the data they're getting from those satellites.
Smart. So it's not just about tech. It's about using tech to make those traditional farming practices even more effective.
That's the idea.
Okay, so let's break those strategies down, starting with cultural practices. What are some things farmers can do to make their fields less inviting to Alternaria?
Well, first off, crop rotation. Classic for a reason.
Break the cycle.
Yeah. Plant something else for a few years, something that Alternaria isn't interested in. Deprive the fungus of its favorite food, so to speak.
Starve it out.
What else? Sanitation is huge. Get rid of all that infected plant debris. Don't give the fungus a place to overwinter and come back next year.
Makes sense. And I'm guessing spacing is important too.
Absolutely. Proper spacing means better air circulation, drier leaves, less chance for those spores to germinate.
And irrigation. Timing must be crucial there.
It is. Water in the morning, give those leaves time to dry out before nightfall. Less leaf wetness means less opportunity for infection.
So it's all about being mindful of how our farming practices can impact disease spread.
Right. We have more control than we sometimes realize.
Okay, so we've talked about crop rotation, sanitation, spacing, irrigation. What about resistant varieties?
Yes. Not all potato and tomato plants are created equal when it comes to fighting off Alternaria. Some have natural resistance traits, making them less susceptible.
So it's about choosing the right plant for the job.
Exactly. It's like some varieties are just tougher, naturally better equipped to deal with this particular threat.
But how do farmers know which varieties to choose? That's where local expertise comes in.
Absolutely. Your local agricultural extension service is a goldmine of information. Same with trusted seed suppliers. They can tell you which cultivars are the real warriors in your specific region.
Because what works in one place might not work in another.
Right. Climate, soil type, all those factors play a role. So it's about combining that global perspective from the satellite data with the local knowledge, the boots on the ground experience.
The best of both worlds. I love it.
No, we can't forget about the chemical side of things. Fungicides, they definitely have a role to play.
Right, but it's not about just spraying everything in sight.
Exactly. It's about using fungicides strategically as part of that integrated approach we were talking about. And this is where Farmonaut's technology really shines, I think. Well, they can pinpoint those high-risk areas, by using the satellite imagery and disease forecasting, so farmers can optimize their fungicide applications.
So instead of blanket spraying the whole field, you can target just the spots that really need it.
Yep, precisely. Variable rate application, it's called. Use the right product at the right time in the right place at the right dose.
Makes sense. Less waste, lower costs, and definitely better for the environment.
Wins all around.
Now, I understand Farmonaut also incorporates biological control into their recommendations, which sounds fascinating. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. Biological control is all about using nature's own weapons to fight disease.
Like what?
Well, it involves introducing beneficial microorganisms, like good bacteria and fungi, into the soil or directly onto the plants.
So you're basically giving the plants back up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Reinforcements for their natural defenses.
It's like a microscopic army of good guys fighting the bad guys.
That's a great way to put it. And these beneficial microbes, they can either outcompete the harmful fungi, like going after the same resources, or they can directly attack those pathogens.
So they make it harder for the Alternaria to gain a foothold.
Exactly. It's really amazing what's happening at that microscopic level.
It is. So we've talked a lot about satellites, but what about drones and all those fancy IoT sensors we hear about? Do those play a role in Farmonaut's approach?
That's a good question. Drones and IoT sensors definitely have their place in precision ag, but Farmonaut, they tend to favor satellites.
Why is that?
Well, for one, think about coverage area. Drones, they're great for close-ups, but their range is limited by battery life and, all the regulations. IoT sensors, they're super localized, giving data from specific points in a field. But with satellite imagery...
You can get the big picture.
Yep. You can capture data across huge areas, entire farms, even regions all at once.
It's like the difference between using a zoom lens and a wide-angle lens.
Perfect analogy. And it's not just about the breadth of coverage either. It's about frequency, too. Drones, someone has to fly them. IoT sensors, they're stationary. But satellite imagery, they can get updates, sometimes even daily, which gives you this super dynamic view of your crops.
So you can really track how things are changing over time.
Exactly. Like, imagine seeing the spread of Alternaria blight practically in real time. That's powerful information for decision-making.
Absolutely. But I'm curious about cost. Satellites sound expensive.
You might be surprised. Because you don't need all that on-site equipment, Satellite imagery can actually be more cost-effective, especially for those bigger farms. You're not paying for pilots, you're not maintaining tons of sensors.
I hadn't thought of
And
that.
then when you factor in the AI analysis that Farmonaut provides, well, the value really starts to add up.
They're really harnessing the power of AI.
They are. Their system, Jivan AI Advisory System, it analyzes the images, finds those potential hotspots, integrates weather data to predict disease risk, and even gives you customized management advice for your specific farm.
It's like having a virtual agronomist on speed dial.
Exactly.
Okay, so
That's
say I'm
fine.
a farmer, and I'm hearing all this for the first time. It sounds kind of overwhelming. Where do I even begin?
I'd say start with the basics, don't get too overwhelmed. Farmonaut's platform, it's designed to be user-friendly, walks you through everything. First step is creating a map of your fields using their imagery.
So get to know your fields, like really know them.
Yeah, and you can see different zones based on the topography, the soil, other things that might affect how your crops grow.
It's like making a personalized profile for each field.
Exactly. And once you have that baseline, you can start layering in the real-time data, the vegetation health indices we've been talking about.
Those early warning signs.
Yep. And by tracking those over time, you start to see how different parts of your fields are responding to changing conditions. And you'll get alerts if something seems off before you can see it with your own eyes.
So you can be proactive instead of reactive.
Right. And that's what data-driven decision-making is all about. You take those insights, combine them with the knowledge of, your extension agent, your seed supplier, and you make informed choices.
About everything from which varieties to plant to how to manage your fungicide applications.
Exactly. It's about giving farmers the tools and knowledge to make the best decisions for their operation.
Empowering them, really.
Exactly. And with Farmonaut's system, you're not just reacting to problems, you're anticipating them.
Getting ahead of the game.
Right. Taking steps to reduce the risk before it impacts your bottom line.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from Farmonaut's detection system to their integrated management strategies. But I'm curious, what's next? What's coming down the pipeline when it comes to managing Alternaria blight? Anything that really has you excited?
Oh, absolutely. AgTech, it's moving so fast. There are some really amazing things on the horizon that could completely change how we deal with this disease.
Ooh, okay, give me a sneak peek. What's the future of farming looking like?
Well, imagine this. Plants that can actually tell you when they're under attack.
Plants that can talk. Come on.
Not talking, not exactly, but close. Scientists are working on ways to engineer plants so they release signals like special chemicals.
When they're getting infected.
Yep. It's like an early warning system, but instead of, the sirens.
This is a silent alarm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we can use sensors, hyperspectral imaging, things like that to pick up on those signals.
So we can detect a disease way before we see any symptoms.
Right. It's all about catching it super early before it has a chance to spread.
That is seriously cool.
Sure.
What else are you excited about in the world of ag tech?
Robots. Robots in the fields.
Okay, now that's a sci-fi movie I'd watch.
Right. Agricultural robotics, it's booming right now. We're starting to see robots that can do all sorts of things. Weeding, planting, even applying treatments.
With incredible precision.
Exactly. So picture this. A swarm of tiny robots all equipped with sensors and like mini sprayers.
Going plant by plant.
Yep. They could identify the infected ones, deliver targeted treatments.
Minimize the use of chemicals.
Or reduce the risk of spreading the disease. It could be huge, especially for those large farms where it's just impossible to check every single plant.
And it could help with the labor shortage, too.
Absolutely. And as AI and robotics get even better, we'll see even more sophisticated applications.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine robots that can detect and treat diseases, but they're also gathering data on soil conditions, how the plants are growing, all in real time.
So it's like having an army of, mini agronomists working 24/7.
Exactly. Constantly monitoring, providing insights. Which brings us to another really exciting area, the world of plant microbiome.
Oh yeah, the microbiome, always a hot topic. But remind me, what exactly is a plant microbiome?
Think of it like a hidden universe. Every plant has this community of microorganisms living in and on it.
Bacteria, fungi, all those little guys.
Right. And this community, it's called the microbiome, and it plays a huge role in the plant's health, especially its ability to resist diseases.
So it's kind of like our own gut microbiome.
Perfect analogy. Just like a healthy gut microbiome keeps us healthy, a diverse plant microbiome can help protect plants from things like Alternaria.
So how can we harness that power, the power of the microbiome, I mean?
That's the million-dollar question, and scientists are working on it. They're looking at ways to, like, manipulate the microbiome.
Tip the scales in favor of the good guys.
Exactly. Introducing beneficial microbes that can outcompete the pathogens, like Alternaria.
The more natural approach, more sustainable than relying solely on chemicals.
Right. It's about working with nature, not against it. And AI is going to play a huge role here, too.
How so?
Well, AI can analyze those complex interactions in the microbiome, help us figure out which microbes are the most beneficial, how to help them thrive.
So AI is like the conductor of the microbiome orchestra. It's amazing how much potential AI has in agriculture.
It really does. AI could revolutionize everything, optimizing irrigation, fertilizer use, predicting yields, managing pests and diseases.
Imagine a system that's monitoring every aspect of your farm.
Exactly. Weather patterns, soil health, plant growth, and it's giving you personalized advice every step of the way.
We really are on the cusp of a whole new era in agriculture.
I think so too.
It's been a fantastic journey exploring Alternaria Blight today, from understanding the threat to getting this glimpse into the future of farming. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
My pleasure. I always say knowledge is power, right? The more we understand these challenges, the better equipped we'll be to create a brighter future for agriculture.
Well said. And a huge thank you to Farmonaut for all the great work they're doing in this area. Seriously, folks, check out their website or download their app. They're real innovators.
They are.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep those curious minds engaged, and keep growing.